and welcome everyone to our second episode of Wellness Wednesdays. This afternoon we are going to be exploring a new topic on food, one of my favorites. And before we go forward, I would like to introduce my guests on stage today, on set with me today, Susan Legua.
Susan
Jaslo, and she is with one of our members at UWI. And this episode of Wellness Wednesday is also brought to you by UWI Credit Union Education Committee. So we also want to acknowledge them for that. So last episode, we discussed overcoming stress and toxicity. And we had a lot of little tools and techniques that we took away from that episode. So one of them was the issue of stop, about learning to take time out when we're in the middle of a stressful situation and how to cope as a coping mechanism. Another one would have been RAW, which is a method of right after work, implementing a mindfulness practice. And I didn't forget, we would have committed to increasing our sleep by just 1 hour every night. So I'd love to hear from our audience online in terms of whether or not you're able to implement any of the things that we would have discussed, especially 1 hour additional sleep, and what some of those benefits would have been. So pretty soon you're going to be seeing a poll on your screen. We just want you to click and give us feedback in terms of whether or not you're able, and it's okay if you weren't able to get it consistently every night. The idea, once the effort is being made, and you probably may have been able to get it a couple more nights than you would have in the past, that is good. Slow, but consistent progress is important. So this afternoon, we jump right into our other topic while we wait for the results of the polls to come in. And this afternoon is about food. Now, this is one of my favorite topics. I mean, who doesn't love food, right? And so this afternoon, we're going to be discussing how to create a clean, healthy plate. So I have a question. We'll be exploring some of the deep, dark secrets of the food industry. Do you think we're eating food or Frankenstein food?
Frankenstein food.
Yes, indeed. So what would have happened, a lot of the food that we eat today is processed and food-like, more chemical-based versus real food. So this afternoon, I want us to, when the end of the thing, we will take away is 6 practical steps how to implement or adopt a clean eating habit. How to identify clean food, as well as we have a little secret up our sleeves, a high-tech, low-tech tool that every single person has that we can use to be able to get the nutrition that our particular bodies need.
Okay.
All right, so let's get started. So audience, we need you to pay attention because we're going to be asking some trivia questions at the end, and there is an opportunity to win some freebies. Okay? So when we talk about food, the food that we eat today, our ancestors or great-grandparents wouldn't recognize as food anymore.
True.
Right? So what started off as the food revolution was really designed to support the food supply because our population was growing, really have morphed into something a little more. So now we have commerce taking over, and it's all about really making that money. Right? So we now faced with, like you said, Frankenstein food, a lot of things that appear to be food-like, but are not actually food. It's really like a soup of chemicals and other things that look like food. And so our bodies are now being challenged as we consume these, trying to figure out what exactly it is, because it's not recognizing it as real food.
Right.
So we end up with some of the things. So one of the things that we have is the genetically modified foods, and that's where they play with the genetic sequencing of the foods that we eat. Then we have things like antibiotics and herbicides and hormones being added to the food supply.
Right, flavored and all of that.
Added flavorings. We have things like preservatives to improve the shelf life. So a lot of things are being done with our food. We even have things like irradiation, where we zap the food with radiation to kill bacteria. Supposed to be good, but on one hand, but you could see where the challenge could lie for that when it comes to us consuming it. We have homogenization, where they spin the food, we really eat what is left from it. So there are a lot of things that we are eating now that look like food, a lot of processed, and it's quick and easy. It may not necessarily be food.
And it's less costly too.
Exactly,
Yeah,
but is it really? Right? So that's something we
in the long run it isn't.
No. So what do you think are some of the things that we are eating right now that we know that really not good for us. And audience, you can weigh in as well in the chat section in terms of sharing what are some of the things that you think that we are consuming right now that we know are not good for us, that look like food, that may not necessarily be food. What do you think?
Well, they have this chicken outside there now, some of them are tiny and some of them are huge, like wings. They're huge. We're being told that it's injected, so it has a lot of I would say chemicals and stuff in them, so it's not good for you.
Right.
So it helps in you being overweight. It helps in a lot of things in your body.
It's definitely impacted us. And we are literally what we eat. So the food choices we make now impacts what our bodies will be in the future. And the food choices we made in the past, that impacts what we are right now.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when we are consuming so much antibiotics and the chemicals, the pesticides, it's impacting our health as well. So we have a lot of new allergies. We are now becoming, because of all the antibiotics we are consuming in the foods that we eat from the chickens and the hormones,
Yes.
we find we now having our teenagers having hormonal and developmental issues.
Yeah.
We have young men having what we call man boobs now. When we take antibiotics, our bodies are becoming resistant to it because we have all these secondary sources.
Yeah.
So you're seeing the impact of it. So really and truly, how can we identify what real food is? Well, one of the first steps is really being able to understand our food labels. So in our last episode, we would have touched on it a little bit about when we make our food choices, look for those with a shorter ingredient list.
Okay.
Right? Look for them with words that you can pronounce as part of reducing our toxicity. And some of the feedback we are getting from our online audience would be things like packed noodles, which is really correct, imitation seafood. All these things look like food, but our bodies are not really recognizing it like food. So we are feeling satiated, but we are not getting the nutrition we need. And unfortunately, our bodies do not have the ability to store minerals and nutrients. So we get that from the day-to-day foods that we consume. So making proper choices now is really important. And it's important as well as we go through our health and wellness series, is really about including the entire family into the process.
Yes.
And it's important if we start with our kids from now, it really makes a big difference. So
Yes.
one of the things we can consider is including our children when we're shopping, have them start learning to read labels.
Okay.
Start being able to identify which products may be better for us from which things. So they start developing that habit from young.
All of that is breaking in a new realm, because you weren't accustomed to these things
No.
in the early years.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So we really start preparing the other generation as well, and it also helps hold us accountable because, they will hold us accountable to doing it, right? So great, there's a lot of debate as to whether or not to go organic or not to go organic. And really, there's a good place to start is what we call the EWG group, which is the Environmental Awareness Group. And with them, they have what we call the list of the dirty dozen. So those are the things that you prefer to buy organic in terms of those choices. And then they have the clean 12 or the clean 15. So every year the lists change. And so that's we started as a starting point as a guide for us to know which ones to do or not. So we do have a question from the audience, and it's around whether or not all frozen foods are bad. And the simple answer is no. So it's being able to understand which ones are good for us.
Yeah.
So really, when we look at it, we have to look at what the ingredient list is. And a lot of frozen or ready-made foods, one of the challenges, they're normally high in sodium. We do have some that are lower in sodium. So everybody would know what is acceptable in terms of their sodium levels would be, whether or not it has preservatives in it, all those things you'd want to look at in terms of making those food choices. So a good place as well is to understand that right now the food industry is really pretty much unregulated.
Yes. For
Yeah.
Sure.
So a lot of things that they do with our food doesn't appear in our labels.
Okay.
Right? So for instance, they also get very clever now when it comes to play of words. So for instance, you're talking about chicken. So there's a difference between made with chicken, 100% chicken or made of 100% chicken.
Right.
And those little play of words can make a big difference in terms of the amount of fillers and other chemical additives that we consume.
Right.
Right? So knowing that, the funny thing is that animals instinctively know what to eat.
Yes.
They instinctively know what is good for
They
them.
exactly know where to go to eat.
Exactly. Our
Yeah.
ancestors in the past knew that. They knew because they foraged for their foods. They knew instinctively what was good for them, what foods were healthy.
Yeah.
But today we no longer have that, right? Because we go to the supermarket for most of our food, right?
Yes, we do.
So it's about really learning to start reframing and understanding what is good for us.
But I also think it's to do with finances too. You know, why a lot of people go the other way instead of going for the good food. It's expensive, you know.
Expensive upfront, but there are ways we can go through how we can make it more economically feasible, and in the long run, when we think about the medical bills as well. So it's about making educated choices and learning how to get creative in the whole mix of things. So we'll actually get into a little bit of that as we go along. I love that you brought that up. So now that we know what is clean, healthy food, we need to understand what are some of the benefits. And I think we started touching on that a little bit.
Right.
So we'd like to ask our audience, what are some of the things that you think are the benefits of really adopting to a clean, healthy way of life? Anything comes to mind, offhand?
That I don't think about that.
So just a couple that comes to mind. When we start changing and we start eating healthy, we have more energy.
Yes.
We tend to save money in the long run in terms of our medical bills. It does not mean that we would never get sick. It means our bodies will have a little more resilience in terms of being able to fight off whatever illness may be the case. We feel better, brain function. It affects us on a cellular level. So with improvement in our skin, our thinking, clarity, and all of that, better mood. So as we wait for the audience to give us an idea, what are some of the things that they think are the benefits of a clean eating? Longer life, more stamina, looking young, and this is all awesome. And you are so correct. Thank you so much for sharing. So we know now the benefits. We know after why to eat healthy. So when we want to know now how to start implementing this, right?
Right.
And I want to introduce you to a new concept.
Okay.
The concept of primary and secondary foods. When we talk about holistic health and wellness, we consider primary foods and secondary foods. So we consider nutrition as secondary. The nutrition we get over a plate as secondary, and the nutrition that we get from the other aspects of our life, everything other than on our plate that nourishes us, as our primary foods.
Oh, okay.
You know, we have been, when we were younger, we experienced it. We experience this at different times in our life, but it's really now understanding how we put the connections together. So, fun tip, we can eat all the broccoli in the world, but if other things in our life are falling apart, there's no way on earth we are going to be healthy, right? Yeah, so there's no way on earth is going to be healthy. So I have some questions about milk, cheese, and butter. And all of these fall under the umbrella of dairy foods. Right? So this has been a long debate, and some persons believe in the concept of what we call bio-individuality. So one person's food is another person's poison. So I may be able to, my body may be able to digest something well, because of my genetic makeup, my blood type, my other factors, and for you, that could probably send you into a spiral with allergies and several things. So some persons have the ability to consume dairy products, and the important thing is when we talk about dairy products, it's about getting good quality dairy products. So cows that are grass-fed and grass-finished, and there's a difference, because what happens is that when the animals are fed all the grains, remember we talk about all those hormones and antibiotics, that affects the end product that we consume. When it's a grass-fed or grass-finished, and there's a difference because sometimes they have on it grass-fed, but they are not grass-finished. So what they do, they feed them grain all along, and just before slaughter, they give them the grass. So you really want to look at grass-fed and grass-finished. What our ancestors locally used to have the animals growing and grazing in the
Yeah.
yard. Those types of consuming dairy, you want to always go for good quality, you want to go for organic, you want to go for grass-fed, right? So, and again, we will get into how we go about consuming those as well, right? So it's not that it's a blanket bad. And one of the things that in the program that when I was becoming a holistic health and wellness coach, is we actually explored over 100 different dietary theories, right? So we had different lecturers from like Dr. Hyman to Dr. Wheel and a range of them. So there are a range of diets and ways of eating that works for one person and may not work for another. So it's really about finding that right mix that works for us, right?
I can't eat cheese.
I also have a little bit of a dairy intolerance, right? So I'm lactose intolerant as well. So as I said, some persons can consume it without challenges. I can't, unfortunately. So when we go back to the topic of the holistic health and wellness plate, and you'll be seeing the picture of a plate shortly on our screens coming up, it's about primary foods, and we'll start with the primary foods, which is on the outside, because this is what really fuels us, our life. So think about it. Children would have so much more fun and satisfaction playing versus eating. So you call them to eat, and they prefer to play versus eat. Think about when you're falling in love, floating on air. The other person seemed to be the only thing that really mattered. Food became secondary. When we are consumed with a project that we are really engaged in, sometimes at the end of the day we realize we went the entire day and we never even thought about food, right? So a lot of the times when we look at a holistic approach to nutrition, a lot of times when we have cravings and other things that may be going else, is really a deficiency in our primary foods diet, right? So when it comes to primary foods, and we are looking at the plate. Right, so when it comes to primary foods, there are 4 pillars to primary foods. And first, one of them would be our relationships, and our relationships could either be nurturing, supportive, and when areas that is out of sync, we have challenges. We're depressed, we tend to eat more, so we've seen a cycle here. Physical activity, our bodies are meant to move. Right? So by moving and keeping physical activity, it helps with our overall health and wellness. And generally, when we're in the mood of exercising, we tend to make better food choices, don't you think?
Yes.
Definitely. So we're seeing the dots being connected now. Then we have career. If we're in an unfulfilling career or workplace environment, may not be one that is conducive to what we would think is acceptable, it also leads us down a spiral. Yeah? So we see, and then we have spirituality. It's important that we all have somewhere a grounding base. For me, it's grounding into something, a divine source that is higher than me. It will look spirituality looks different for everyone. Some persons may be in terms of finding that grounding, or in terms of a meditation or mindfulness practice. So it's really about having that, once that outer layer, those primary pillars, foods, then we start focusing now on the secondary nutrition, right? So when it comes to secondary nutrition, there are some basic things that we want to do. Now, it could seem pretty daunting, especially if we don't have a background in nutrition, right? And so what tends to happen is that we tend to go for what is easy. So the processed foods, we end up, even if we buy fast food, if we do prepare at home, we tend to go for the comfort foods. So we end up with more carbs, more cheese, and then it gives us a short-term fix. But then what happens afterward? We have indigestion, bloating, obesity, and the list goes on.
Also, we get stomach.
Exactly. And then we tend to regret the choices, but then we go back into a cycle. So one of the first things we want to do when we talk about introducing a clean and healthy plate is about reducing our processed foods. Now, we're not asking anybody to go this cold turkey. What we're talking about is slow, consistent, sustainable change. So start by probably reducing. If you used to eat it 3-4 days a week, try to slowly break it down to 2, then to one processed food meal a week. Eventually, gradually break it down into probably 2 or 3 for the month. So I normally follow a rule, which is the 80-20 rule. right? So 80% of the time, you make sure you have very good nutrition and you have a little wiggle room in between. Because the reality is we all know diets don't work,
Yeah.
right? Once we get into the realm of being restricted in eating, we know that's not going to happen long term, right?
Yeah,
So it's really about, that's correct. And a lot of it is not our fault. There's the deep, dark secrets in the food industry. So they have food scientists, taste scientists that come together to make sure that the foods have the right mix of fats, sugar, and salt to make it addictive for us. And what they do, they'll actually hook it up to the rats, and they look at their brain when it lights up, when they get that right mix. So a lot of it, sometimes we keep finding ourselves being addicted, going back over and over again. It's because they actually have that science down pack in terms of creating those taste profiles to get us addicted. Now remember, we spoke about this high-tech, low-tech tool. Yeah. Any idea what that may be that could help us combat getting our nutrition?
No, they had portions. I don't know.
Well, it's our hands.
Okay.
So a lot of times we spend a lot of money in terms of getting all these bowls and all these things to tell us about portion sizes. We are counting calories. I mean, I've been there, to be quite honest. I've been there before. Okay. Counting calories. Oh my goodness, no, I can't eat this again. I'm up to my limit. And really and truly, there's an easy way that we can use with our hands. So our hands would provide the portion size that's just enough for our bodies.
Okay.
So on the screen, you'd see as a the individual approach to eating and our portion sizes. So when it comes to proteins will really be about the size of the palm of our hand.
Right.
When it comes to vegetables will be about a fistful of vegetables. When it comes to carbs, this would be like your pasta, your potato, your other rice, and those kind of things, about a cupped hand. And then when it comes to fats, we're looking at about a thumb size. Okay. Now, fats tend to have gotten a bad rep over the years.
I guess so they're to have the fat.
I know, and fat is tasty. But our body actually uses fat to metabolize our hormones. So it actually plays an integral part in our diet. So there are good fats and there are bad fats. So sugar is what actually makes us fat. So it's about getting the right blend of fats that mix into our diet. Okay. So when we talk about nutrition, we're talking about things like lean proteins, legumes, wild-caught fish, beans, and all of those things, right? So we know now how to eat. We know how to manage our portions, and it does not mean resigning to eating spinach every night. Yeah. It's really about, when we talk about healthy, it's about really understanding what is good for our bodies. Yeah. So one of the things I normally ground my clients when we're getting into it is start eating like you love your body. What do you think about that?
Well, some people think that, loving myself is eating until I feel full. It doesn't matter what it is. So now you have to change your thought.
That's correct.
Thought process.
That's correct. And it comes back as well to listening to our bodies. When we eat, whether or not how the food makes us feel, whether or not we feel energized or with more energy, or whether or not it makes us feel more lethargic, all those things, whether or not we feel upset. So it's about listening to our bodies and making choices that will benefit us not only now, but in the long term.
Right.
So as always, we always like to have practical things that we can implement right away. So you're going to go through a couple of tools and techniques that we can use in order to be able to implement a clean, healthy eating. Okay. So one of the first things is crowding out and crowding in.
Okay.
So it's interesting. So it should never be about deprivation, because we know deprivation is not sustainable long term. Right. So when we want to crowd out something, we look for what is good that we could start including more of in our diet. Okay. So for instance, if we want to stop drinking all the sugary soft soda and the juices, we start crowding in more water. So we start focusing on hydration. So we try to get our water in, and a lot of us, water is pretty much boring. So we start adding things. You could look at adding things like your fruits, your herbs, your spices.
Okay.
You know, spice it
Yeah.
and make it interesting to drink.
To taste different.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And for some persons, it still is a challenge.
Yeah.
So you may want to consider including hydrating foods. So foods that have high water content. So you have a lot of your leafy vegetables, your watermelon, cucumbers, carrots, those things that are high vegetable foods that are high in hydration value.
Okay.
Right? So being hydrated also helps us feel satiated longer and also decreases our hunger. A lot of times when we reach for food is really because we're really hungry, right? So that's one way. One thing you'd also want to consider is including using filtered water. So remember, we talk about the toxins, making sure we filter out those toxins. And then we want to focus on good nutrition, right? So we talk about things like lean proteins, nuts and seeds, wild-caught fish, and stable fats into our diet. So we focusing on hydration, we're crowding out and crowding in with good stuff. We focusing on nutrition. And then it comes to the fun part, eating the rainbow.
Okay then.
So eating the rainbow is a concept that allows us to not only eat colorful foods, but it also makes sure that we get a wide range of minerals and nutrients. Because remember we said earlier on that our bodies doesn't have that ability to store nutrients.
Right.
So eating your rainbow means that we try to get as much color into our meals on a daily basis. Color from nature, that is.
Okay.
Eating nature's Skittles.
Right.
So some of the things that we colors, food group colors we'd have would be like red. When it comes to red, you think things like tomatoes, watermelon, cherries, that kind of thing. And red reduces inflammation in our body. So there's a benefit now to eating the rainbow, nature's
Yes.
rainbow, that is. So when we eat those foods, our bodies are fighting off inflammation.
Okay.
And we spoke a little bit about that last session when we talked about stress and toxicity. Orange foods, we look at things like oranges, sweet potatoes, pumpkin, those types of food, those
Pawpaw?
foods, pawpaw,
Okay.
vision and reproductive health. So we see any benefits now. Then we talk about yellow foods that help with digestion. So yellow foods, you think bananas, pineapples, those type of food groups. Those yellow foods really aids our digestion. Then green. Now green is the star of the show. And I think that's where we fall short a lot of times in our diet.
Green.
Green, we talk about green leafy vegetable. Green is good for the heart and also for blood vessels.
Okay.
So you're talking about your green leafy vegetables, things like avocado and all those types of green type
Does
foods.
broccoli fit in there?
Broccoli, of course. Yep. And then we have the food group that are the blues, the blacks, and the purples, and this is brain food.
Okay.
So we're talking things like blueberries, we have eggplant, or beets, all these things that fall, dashing, that's correct, all these things that fall into those colors. So we see now how bringing it together of these colors, it impacts our overall health. And we have one more group, which is the white and tan group. And that white and tan group is really good when it comes to cholesterol, which is something a lot of us struggle with, as well as blood pressure, high blood pressure. So we're talking things like garlic and onions and mushrooms, and this is nature's white and tan.
Okay.
Right? So it's really about getting the goal in this, when we talk about eating your rainbow, is to get 7 colors, 7 days of the week. And it sounds difficult, but it's really not as difficult, because if we start trying to get a little bit of each color in every single meal, pretty soon you'll see how quickly that could add up. So a little way, I always like to have this grounding into whatever new practice we are going. So a quick way to know if we're eating all right or not. When we look at our plate, if there's too much brown and white, we are not eating right. So if we teach our kids, so now when we think about fast food and processed foods, what are the color palettes we think? Brown, tan, white, right?
Yes.
Those are the colors. So we know if we're looking at our plate and there's much brown and white, we are not eating right.
Yeah.
And we start teaching our kids this as well. Start teaching them to start looking at all for the colorful foods. So now that we know the benefits of eating the rainbow, and I think as well we can use this, I always say that food should be an expression of self-care, of also our creative expression. So get creative when you start in your kitchen and cooking in terms of thinking about putting your colors together on your plate. And that will also help kids get excited about their foods, a good way to also help is helping them start growing their own foods.
Okay.
Right? Some of these things. So we know now
Interesting.
what to eat, how to identify it. How do we put all of these pieces together? I have a 6 steps plan that we can do it. So the first one is choosing a way of eating. So we talk about a bio-individual approach and developing whatever eating style that works best for you. So we established that. It's always good whatever eating plan that you choose or eating style that you choose, make sure you have a lot of fruits and vegetables in it, right? And then fun part is that you get to plan your week, your food for the week in colors.
Okay.
That should be a fun exercise. So figure out what colors you're going to be eating for the week. So we know what our meal plan looks like for the week.
Right.
So that also helps us
Yes, it does.
save money when we think about, if we know exactly what we're going to cook, we know exactly what we are going to buy. And that also is a strategy of saving. So the next step will be create a shopping list. Right? So step number 3 will be create a shopping list. And remember to choose your foods wisely, what needs to be organic, choose hydrating foods. So we're thinking that when we're creating that list as well. The 4th step is determining where to shop. Now, where we shop has a big impact in terms of how we shop and what we eat, right? So there's a whole food strategy when we walk into the supermarket in terms of what catches our eyes, how to make us spend more money.
Yes.
Generally, the best part is to stay on the outskirts of a supermarket, and in that way, there's where a lot of the fresh producers and the outskirts. Also, shopping at your local farmers markets. Of lately, we have a lot of NAMDEVCO pop-ups within our communities. Make friends with the farmers, get to know them, find out how they are growing the food so you know where your food is coming from, how it is being grown. Another tip is in terms of saving on costs is buying in bulk. When we buy in bulk, we process, we chop up, we freeze where possible so that it makes it easier for us down the road. Yep. So finding ways to eat healthy, love our bodies, and yet save on cost. So the 5th one is cleaning out our pantry. Now this is tricky. It doesn't mean when we say clean out the pantry, okay, we're now going to start clean eating, so we're going to eat out every single thing that's in the pantry that was not healthy for us. It means developing a different approach, donating, give it away, whatever it is, but really keeping the foods in the pantry that are aligned to the way that will support us and give us the energy that we need. That is good for our body. And the 6th step is to shop and eat. So it means that once we start, we be consistent in terms of creating those meals, your breakfast, your lunches, because you already planned it out, and finding creative ways to do it. A good tip is to also stop eating at least 3 hours before sleeping. So your last meal, at least 3 hours. So we know now we have our 6 steps in terms of how to implement. We know what is a clean, healthy eating. We now understand the whole concept of primary and secondary foods, right? So I think we are on to a great start in terms of being able to develop that clean and healthy plate. So I do have a question for the audience. I hope you were listening. Who can tell us what the 4 pillars of primary foods are? So that's the 4 pillars of primary foods. So primary foods we establish is all the non-food nutrition that we get in our life, everything off our plate that other than our plate that nourishes us. And we talk about secondary foods being the foods that actually are on our plate that nourishes us. To create that holistic, clean and healthy plate. We also talked about how we can ground into our practice in terms of keeping us on track. If it's too much brown and white, then we are not eating right. So that's key. And then we're talking about eating the rainbow, getting 7 in 7. So 7 colors in 7 days a week. So we now know also about crowding in and crowding out, right? So finding creative ways for whatever we want to reduce in our life, if it's less processed food, finding ways to bring in that rainbow into our diet, right? And there's some fun activities that we could include with our kids, teaching them to read food labels, having it while we are shopping to keep us on track, as well as planning our meals for the week in color. That's my favorite. I'm so sorry. I'm a very visual person. And we also learned as well about how to manage our portion sizes. right? So it's all about the visual. So we know about the fistful, the cupful, and all of
The
that.
thumb,
The thumb with the
yeah,
fats.
the
We know
cup,
about what is healthy fats, and finding creative ways to eat healthy and to still save money
Yes.
in terms of that. So guys, the floor is open if anyone has any questions that you'd like me to answer. I know we had a couple before that we would have gone through, which was about, we touched about dairy products. We talked about frozen products, and it's really about learning to read those food labels. So just to let everyone know that everyone who would have registered would get a free copy of my ebook, The Naked Truth About Food Labels. It's on Amazon. The link will be shared with you. It would be available for free only until midnight tomorrow night, so be sure to grab your copy. And it really also delves a little bit into as well in adopting a mindfulness eating, mindful way of eating. So we haven't had any takers as yet, I see, for our free giveaway in terms of what the primary food, 4 pillars of primary food looks like. So what we'll do, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, guys, we'll be getting into our practical segment, and we'll be showing you how to make some clean, healthy, quick recipes that you can customize as well. So we're taking a short break, and we would be right back. Stay tuned as well. We also have another giveaway at the end of the second segment. So thank you so far for all those who have been attending and participating. Welcome back to the second part of our Wellness Wednesday. And today we are going to do some clean, healthy treats. So today what we're looking at is some pumpkin seeds. We're going to do a rosemary spice pumpkin seed recipe. And it's really quick and easy. Now you'd notice that this will also fall under the green category. Okay. Right? So when we're looking at healthy snacks, and pumpkin seeds are really good in terms of micronutrients as well. Okay. Right? So it's very simple. We're starting, we want to try it. Okay. We're starting with 1 cup of pumpkin seeds. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sure. Let me just take it out. So 1 cup of pumpkin seeds.
Okay. 1 cup. So that's a half cup.
Right, so that's a half cup measure. Okay. So we're going with 1 cup of pumpkin seeds. And to that, we'll be adding a little bit of oil, to about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. We're using olive oil.
But this is bigger than a tablespoon.
Yes, so my apologies. So we got right into it, clearly excited. It's a food topic that I'm so excited about. So we do have a winner from our last from when we ended off for our new ebook, and that is a clean, healthy, for heart health recipes, and it's Katine Rodney. So congratulations, Katine. She would have got now 4 pillars of primary foods, which would be spirituality, physical activity, career, and
leisure.
Awesome. Great. And with us this afternoon, we have one of our members, Charlotte, who would be helping us on set today. And today we're making a spicy rosemary pumpkin seed. So we're adding just about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. You can measure it, or we can play it, eyeball it.
Eyeball it,
right?
Okay.
So that's about 1.
So you spread it all over. All right.
2. Right, so this is one of what we call one of our clean, healthy fats. And to this, we'd add a little bit of our, we have some rosemary here. I'm using fresh rosemary that is chopped. So you can actually use fresh or dried. Fresh would be a little more potent, so you'd use a little less when we're doing it. Every one of the recipes will be provided in the ebook that you have, so that you don't have to worry. You'll get the recipes in it, so we're adding it. All right, so we're adding a little bit of black pepper.
Okay.
All right, about a teaspoon of quarter teaspoon of black pepper, a little bit of garlic powder. Gives it the spiciness, about a tablespoon, and we're adding a little bit of sea salt, and we're using pink sea salt here.
Pinch
right?
Yeah,
a little pinch of it.
This good?
A little less, yeah. Yeah, that should be about. It's really about to taste. All right, and we mix this up. And guys, it's as easy as that. We mix it together. Make sure it's well coated. And then we'll pop this in the oven at 350 degrees for just about 10 to 15 minutes. And then we'll come back. And it's easy as that. Would you believe?
And we spread it out.
Yeah, spread it out in. And we will put this into the oven. You're already beginning to smell the aroma of the olive oil.
Yes.
And the herb is beginning to wake up as the olive oil gets coated with the olive oil. All right, so make sure we just spread it out into a single layer.
Okay.
Yes, a little bit of a single layer so it will cook evenly. Right, and that's it. And we pop this into the oven and we would be right back. So next we would be making some energy balls. So this is a carrot energy ball.
Okay.
And we are using no refined sugar in this. So this can be used as a pre or post workout snack. Who knows, even as a breakfast if we are running a grab and go breakfast.
Okay.
What we're doing, all natural ingredients. So we're starting off with carrot. We're using 1 cup of grated carrot. So we add, now this could be done in a food processor as well. If you don't have a food processor, no worries. We can still work with it. So we have the shredded carrots, 1 cup of carrots. We have some dates, and what I did was a date paste. Now you can use dates, you can use raisins. You pour some hot water on it, and you blend it into a paste.
Okay.
Right? So if it is that you're doing this in the food processor, then you wouldn't need to do this step. It will all be blended together as well. Right? So we have this. Then to that, we're adding 1 cup of oats. And we have our rolled oats here. So using 1 cup of rolled oats. 1, 2. So we have 1 cup of oats. And then to that, we're going to add some cinnamon. All right, so you're adding a little bit of cinnamon, and you can use whatever spices you want. You can use your chai spice, you could use your whatever spice blend. So we go in a little bit with some of the warming spices. So use a little bit of cinnamon in it, a little bit of nutmeg. You have ground nutmeg. And some coconut, some dried coconut. You want to go with unsweetened coconut, dried unsweetened coconut.
And how much of that?
And we're using just about 1/3 of a cup. We're also going to be using some of this as well. That's right.
Okay,
Here.
yeah.
Some of this as well to roll it in. So we're going to be rolling when we actually make the balls to actually roll it in.
Okay. Wash my hands.
Yeah. And to this, we're going to add some nut butter. So you can use any choice of nut butter that you want. You can use almond butter, peanut butter. Do you know that you can also make your own peanut butter as well? Or nut butters. What you do, you toast your nuts. And you have a strong food processor. And in that way, you have it natural. You could add your own flavor profile. So you could go sweet or savory.
Okay.
And you
What
blend
can you add,
it,
so?
your pulses. So you could add spices. You could add honey. You could add different flavor instead. If you're going the way of savory one, you could add garlic, herbs, salt, black pepper. You have a different twist to it.
Wow.
So you could literally have fun with this. As I
Wow.
said, cooking should always be a creative expression. You have fun with it. All right, so to this we're adding 1/4 cup. This should be about 1/4 cup of nut butter. So far we have carrots, we have oats, we have dates, or you can even do, as I said, raisins if you don't have dates. Okay. And literally what we do, we have some spices, and literally just mixing this together. Right, so this is what it looks like. I'm going to mix it together. As I said, you can also do this in a food processor. And these are also good for persons who are vegan as well, because all the recipes are dairy-free, and low sugar or sugar-free, right? So you may want to get your hands into it.
Yes. Can I wash my hands?
Yes, go ahead and wash it. Meanwhile, get your hands into it, and we're going to just be making a couple balls with it. So you see how easy it's a lot of the items that you generally have in your pantry. There is one more item we forgot out of this mix. and that is some ground. Today we are using walnuts. You can use sunflower seeds. You can use whatever other ground seeds or nuts that you have. And this would also add fiber. It's protein as well. So mix it, get in there, you can mix it up, and we just move these again. And then what we do, we just roll it in the coconut flakes, and we have a healthy treat in just a couple of minutes.
Wow.
And you don't even have to light your oven. The best part of all. Yeah. So as I said, you don't have, just keep mixing it. So as I said, you don't literally don't have to have equipment. If you have a food processor, you can use a food processor, but it's not a requirement.
Am I doing well?
You are doing well.
Thank
So
you.
once it comes together, and you see it looks like all the ingredients are properly mixed, it will be a little wet. All you do is simply start making little balls, and we roll it in the coconut, and there you go.
Is this a good size?
Yeah,
Okay.
it is. Mhm. Okay. Right, so guys, you see how easy it is, and it's as easy as that. Right? Awesome. So when we come back, we're taking a short break. When we come back, I'm going to show you how to make healthy oatmeal cookies with just a handful of ingredients, and you'd be surprised. Okay? So we are back. I wish we had smell-o-vision. You should smell the garlic and that rosemary in the air right now as those pumpkin seeds are baking. And today, this afternoon, what we're going to do is show you how to make 2 types of oatmeal cookies. For those of persons who are watching your sugar intake, this is a really good recipe for you to try. It's also good for persons who are vegan as well. So what we're doing, we're starting with 2 very ripe bananas. And it's so simple. Right, so 2 very ripe bananas, we're crushing them. Right,
I'm crushing it now.
crushing it. And to that, we'll be adding some ground oats or oat flour. Now guys, you don't need to spend extra money. Just take your regular whole rolled oats. You put it in a blender if you have a magic bullet or a food processor, and you grind it, and you can keep it. And it's a great way when you're add whole grains to any flour you're using, be it to make your roti or your bakes, you add some ground oats into it. So that looks awesome.
That's
so
it?
to this, yep. So you see what it looks like? So you crush that, and to it we are adding 2 cups of ground oats. So there'll be 4 of these because we have a half cup. 1. And we don't have to be exact with it. These are fun cookies. They are very forgiving. 3 and 4. So we have our 2 cups there, and you mix that together. Now to it, we're going to add some additional fiber. And I also like the little bit of crunch that it gives. We are going to add some chia seeds, about a tablespoon, and it's really up to you. You can choose how much or how little you want to add. It's not a necessity, so we're adding some chia seeds. We have some warming spices again. We're adding some nutmeg to this one. And you have a choice. You can either add, you can keep it like this, or you can choose to add in chocolate chips. You can add, show the bowl. Yeah, so you can add chocolate chips to it, you can add raisins, but if you're really watching your sugar, this would be adequate. So what we're doing now, we're just adding a little bit of milk. Sometimes the banana may not be moist enough. Right, so we add just a little bit of milk to it, and just keep mixing until we get that nice thick, firm texture. Cookie-like texture. All right. And guys, it's as simple as that. You may take a little more moisture. And this is homemade almond milk as well. Just a little bit.
A little. Not much.
Right, this is homemade almond milk. It's generally a ratio of 3 to 1. So you have if you're using 3 cups of water to 1 cup of almond milk, 1 cup of almonds, you blend, strain. You could add a pinch of sea salt if you wish to, or you can add some honey if you want. But generally, I use it natural, and you have your homemade non-dairy milk, right? So it's as simple as this. So what we would have done, we would have baked some of those up here for you already. To this one, we adding a little raisins as well. Just mix that in. So here we have the finished product. And I'm going to show you how you can use this now. So we have this on top here would be your banana oat cookies. And I want to show you, they really do get crisp. Right? And this is what they would look like. Right? So this would be your banana oat cookies. So what we do with this, now we're all about batch making in batches and saving so that we always have healthy choices. We roll this out into a greaseproof paper.
Put it in?
Yep, so you're adding it now to the greaseproof paper. You show the camera. That should be good. A little bit more.
Wait, down the
That's
camera.
okay.
Yeah.
Right, so what we do, we roll it into a log just as how you would roll any other cookie dough. You roll it into a log, you twist the ends. And you can freeze this. You roll it in your cling, you freeze it, and what you do, you take it down, you slice it like you would slice any other cookie, and you always have ready-made cookies. So even though it's fast to put together, you have another option as well in terms of freezing.
Wow.
And this, guys, is just a few ingredients. All we used was bananas, oats, a little bit of milk, and we had our warming spices. As I said, you could play around with your spices. You can add ginger, whatever other spices that you would like to use as well. So the next recipe is we're going to do another version that may be a little more kid-friendly. And in this, we can use back the same bowl. Mm-hmm. So we're starting off this one now with some nut butter. We're going to use a half cup of butter. This one is peanut butter. You can use almond butter, cashew butter, whichever butter, nut butter you choose. All right. Mm-hmm. That should be about half cup there. Add a little bit of milk, again, just to soften it. It's not necessary, but you can. And we're going in now with our spices. We're going in with some cinnamon. We are using in this time rolled oats. So we're using the whole grain oats. And it's always best to buy rolled oats versus old-fashioned oats versus the lighter version. These are heavier. So we're going with 1 cup of oats. Again, we're increasing our nutrition value by adding some chia seeds. Now you can add any other seeds you want. I love chia seeds. You can add hemp seeds, sesame seeds, any other seeds. And I like the crunch, but it also adds a lot of fiber and micronutrients. You also get your omega-3s in it as well. So we added our spices, we added our oats, we added that, and then we're going to add a sweetener of your choice. Now today we are going with coconut sugar. And coconut sugar is what we call low on the glycemic index. So it's not a sugar that is very sweet. You can use honey, you can use any sweetener of your choice. So you're going in with about a 1/4 cup. And also adds a deep, rich molassesy type flavor profile to it as well. And last but not least, we're adding in a little bit of decadence. We're adding in some dark chocolate. So you always recommend, when it comes to chocolate, you can choose a lot of our local varieties, but try to go for a dark chocolate, 70% cacao or higher. Right? So we go in there, make sure we get all that goodness in. Right, and the mixture normally will come together. If it's not coming together as quickly, we will add a little more milk. And this is really just to get it to the consistency that you want. Right, a little more. Guys, it's as simple as that. So let me just show you what that mixture looks like. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to roll it. When it comes together nicely, we roll it and we freeze it, or you can bake it right away. And this is what the finished product looks like. This is what the finished product looks like, and it's crisp and nice because we have nut butter in here. So instead of substituting the butter, regular butter with nut butter, which is a non-dairy form, and you end up with a really nice crisp chocolate chip cookie. So I hope you guys enjoyed this so far. So we take a quick break and then we come back where we put all of it together, and we would be taking out our rosemary, garlic, pumpkin seeds pretty soon. And we are back. Our pumpkin seeds are out of the oven. They are spicy, they're crispy. I hope you can hear that crisp sound. And we are going to plate it up. So guys, you see how easy it is to really create clean, healthy snacks in a very short space of time using natural ingredients. So, all right, so here we go.
Smells good.
Smells awesome. That combination.
Wow.
Put some rosemary across it, and that's it. So we have done our spicy pumpkin seeds, a mix of roasted garlic and fresh rosemary. We did a sugar-free, dairy-free oatmeal cookie. We added just three or four ingredients, with some spices. You had the bananas, your oats, a little bit of milk to bring the mixture come together. Then we had our chocolate chip cookies, our oat cookies. We made it removed all the unhealthy fats. We added in the natural nut butters to it. And we also added a little bit of decadence, some dark chocolates. And then we also have our energy balls. Right? Made with carrots, coconut, and all those really good, yummy stuff that is good for us. So guys, I hope you enjoyed it. The recipes are included in the workbook that you will be receiving. And be sure to try it. And next time when we connect, you let us know whether or not you tried it, what you thought about it, and give us your feedback. So we're going to have just a random draw, like we had for our last episode. And this one is, the first person to type Wellness Wednesday is going to be able to get another one of our giveaways, which is our Heart Healthy Tips and Treats. And it's a lovely ebook with recipes that protects the heart. Yeah, for recipes, the heart health recipes. And this month of February is our Heart Health Month. So this comes in just in time. So let's see if we have a winner. So we have a winner, guys, and it's Maria Belfast. Awesome. Awesome. Marva Belfast. Congratulations. Welcome. So guys, this brings an end to our second edition of our Wellness Wednesdays. Be sure to look out next month for the other episode coming to you soon. Good night.
Bye.